All right. We've been on this journey through the TNFD's LEAP approach, right? We've talked about locating, evaluating, and assessing nature-related issues. But now we're at the finish line. This is the big one, turning all of that internal analysis into real, public-facing, transparent action. This is where all the hard work finally sees the light of day. So here's what we're going to tackle. First up, what does prepare even mean? Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of what actually goes in one of these reports. We'll unpack the 4 big pillars that hold it all together, and, this is key, we'll talk about why any of this matters. Finally, we'll see what this kind of transparency looks like in the real world.
Okay, let's jump in. The final step, prepare. You can think of this as a huge pivot. Up until now, everything's been internal. Companies are looking at their own operations, figuring out their risks. But this step, this is where they turn around and start talking to the outside world, to investors, to customers, to all of us.
And just to jog your memory, the LEAP approach is this really logical process. You've got locate, evaluate, assess, and all that groundwork, all that discovery has all been leading up to this final moment. Step 4, prepare.
So what does prepare actually mean in the TNFD's own language? Well, it boils down to 2 key things. First, you respond to the nature-related issues you found, and second, you report on them. And this is super important. You can't just throw together any old document. It has to be aligned with the TNFD's specific recommendations. That's what ensures the information is comparable and truly useful for making decisions.
That leads us perfectly to our next big question. What goes in the report? You've done all this work. Now, what do you actually have to show for it on the page?
I mean, this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If you're a CFO or a sustainability officer, this is what you want to know. It's not enough to just say we're doing a report. You need to know the ingredients for real transparency.
And thankfully, the TNFD framework is crystal clear. A disclosure needs to explain how the company has responded to the issues it found. It needs to show progress against the plans it's already talked about. Are you actually walking the talk? And here's a part I find fascinating. It asks companies to talk about the trade-offs they considered. How did they balance a business opportunity against a potential environmental impact? That's where this gets really interesting.
Now, to keep all this information organized and consistent, the TNFD provides a clear structure. This brings us to the 4 disclosure pillars. You can think of these as the very architecture for your report.
So what are they? They are governance, strategy, risk and impact management, and finally, metrics and targets. Think of them as the 4 chapters that every complete story needs to tell. Let's take a quick look at each one. First up, governance. This is basically the who's in charge pillar. Who's responsible for this stuff day to day? How involved is the board? It's all about showing that the company's leadership is actually steering the ship when it comes to nature and not just letting it drift. Next, we've got strategy and risk and impact management. This is where it gets real. How do these nature-related issues actually affect the company's business model and its financial planning? The whole point here is to integrate nature into the core of the business, not just treat it like some separate green side project.
And finally, metrics and targets. I like to call this the show me the numbers pillar. This is the proof. What data are you using to track performance? What are the concrete goals you've set for the future? Without this, everything else is just talk.
So we know the what and the how, but that brings us to the most important question of all, why? Let's explore why this reporting really matters, because it's about so much more than just checking a box. The TNFD guidance itself says it perfectly. The main goal is to provide decision-useful information. This isn't disclosure for disclosure's sake. It's about giving people the high-quality information they need to make smarter, more informed decisions about where to put their money.
And who's using this info? Well, pretty much everyone. The company's own board, using the data to steer the ship better. Financial institutions, we're talking banks, insurers, investors, who can now properly price risk and spot opportunities. And of course, all of us as stakeholders who get a much clearer picture of how businesses are impacting the natural world we all depend on.
And this all leads us to our final section, where we can see this vision in action: transparency for all.
So just imagine all that complex internal work we've talked about. The data gathering, the risk assessments, the strategy sessions. It all starts there, inside the organization.
But through the prepare phase, it transforms into a polished, public, TNFD-aligned report. It moves from a private document into the public square, and that creates a whole new level of global accountability.
For an investor maybe reviewing this report on a tablet, this isn't just another document. It's a clear, standardized signal about a company's long-term resilience.
It's the key to enabling smarter, more sustainable investment decisions.
And for a local community member, this same report provides a window into how a nearby facility might be impacting their local ecosystem. It empowers them with information and allows for a much more meaningful dialogue about corporate responsibility.
This is the ultimate goal. A world where corporate reporting on nature is standardized, making it easy to compare companies, transparent so you can see what's really going on, and accountable, creating a direct link between a company's actions and its consequences.
So we end with this thought. The TNFD provides the framework, the tools, and the path forward. The final step is adoption. So just imagine, what if this level of clarity on our relationship with nature wasn't just for a few leaders, but was simply the standard way of doing business? What would that world look like, and what will it take to get there?